Welcome to the Vocal Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Lee Martin Thomas. Join me and my guest speakers as they discuss the journey they've had with their own voice, as well as light bulb moments, stories, and personal wisdoms. Vocal Freedom is a bi-weekly podcast raising awareness about vocal health and well-being from members of the voice community. Welcome to episode 28 of the Vocal Freedom Podcast. My guest this week is Andi Hopgood, a respected vocalist and saxophonist who achieved her Masters in Jazz from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in 2005. Her music crosses jazz, blues, pop and soul, and she has a passion for improvisation. Andi's performance work has taken her all over the UK, Europe and the USA. Alongside her solo work, current projects include the London Vocal Project led by Pete Churchill, blues and soul band Hoppy and the Hopefuls, a jazz duo with pianist Jim Watson, and trio with saxophonist Martin Hathaway. Andi's also returned to university life as a vocal tutor at Anglia Ruskin University and leads choirs including the Suffolk Soul Singers Community Choir, Heart and Soul Choir and the Cambridge Jazz Festival Choir. A Musicians' Union member since the tender age of 16, Andi has served as Vice Chair of the MU's Executive Committee, the decision-making body of the union. Andi's previously been Chair of the Equalities Sub-Committee, working on MU policies promoting equality and challenging inequality across the music industry. She's also represented UK musicians on the world stage, most recently addressing a conference of international musicians, unions and organisations on health and safety issues, including mental health and wellbeing. Her activism is not just confined to the MU, and she's also been a local counsellor on her local trades council and leads a local network of music industry professionals, all in her hometown of Ipswich. So my first question to you, Andi, how would you describe your journey with your voice?
So I started as an instrumentalist. So I played instruments as a kid, and I always sang in choirs, and I enjoyed singing. But I didn't really have I didn't have a singing lesson until I was at uni. Mm-hmm. So I was at, I went to Colchester Institute and did my undergrad there. And I was playing instruments. So I was doing cello, saxophone and euphonium.
Ooh, that's so exciting.
So I got to play in everything. I got to play in the orchestra, the big band, the wind band, the brass. I got to do everything, which was great. Because I just loved playing. That was the thing. I just loved playing and I love music. So I guess growing up, I came to music not through a specific instrument or a specific way. So it was just music as music and all these different things around me. I was singing in choirs, playing, all these things, which I think was a really good way to come to it. And I was, in my teens, I started sort of singing in bands and stuff. But I hadn't thought, I could study singing, properly. And then I was singing a brass band rehearsal one day. Yeah. And my fellow euphonium player, she went to the jazz singers group. And I didn't know this group existed. She went, you're into singing, aren't you? Why don't you come along to the jazz singers group? I went, okay. So, and it was Trudy Kerr, lovely great jazz singer, who was running this session, and we learned a song, and then she was like, does anyone feel like they could improvise on it? And because I'd been singing with bands and improvising, so I was like, yeah, okay. So I went off on a, scat solo. She was like, who are you? Are you doing singing? I was like, no. She was like, you have to do singing.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay. Because I just absorbed, as I said, I came to it all, and I'd love listening to records and transcribing things from records, and it was just a fun thing. I wasn't doing it to study.
Yeah.
It was, So I went to my parents. I went, will you pay for me to have some extra singing lessons? And then I started having lessons with Trudy. And then in my second year, I swapped to first study singing. I did singing and sax and specialised more in jazz and which is always my sort of heart and soul.
Yeah.
But I genuinely didn't know you could go to college and study jazz, which sounds silly because those courses have been around forever. But I'd just not thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, jazz wasn't really on my radar. I mean, I remember my dad taking me to some jazz concert when I was about 11. I mean, it's just not the environment. I really didn't understand it. And there were so many musicians on this big stage, and it just sounded messy to me at some points because there was just so many things going on at the same time. I wanted to go home and listen to Madonna. I just didn't get it.
Whereas my dad was a jazz musician.
Yeah, I mean, amazing.
I've grown up my whole life sitting under tables in pubs trying not to be spotted.
Oh, wow.
At his gigs, you know. My mum used to say, be quiet, if you don't behave, you can't come again, you know. So you sit there and watch the gig, you know. So I'd absorbed all this stuff and suddenly, you know, realised, oh, I didn't know I had this. I didn't know I was good at this.
I mean, I think having the skill, having your musicianship really puts you in a fantastic position to understand music, doesn't it? I mean, just in terms of, you know, when I work with students now who, if we get to this sort of improvisation stage, it's so full of fear because they haven't necessarily got that grounding in understanding modes and scales and things.
I mean, I would say, like, I think to start improvising and enjoying it, you don't need to know any theory. You just need to have confidence.
Yeah.
You know, we've all got ears that will lead us to the right place. So,
yeah, that's good advice.
Especially with kind of blues and gospel, that kind of improvising. You know, I think your ears will lead you to the right place, and a lot of the time it's confidence and generating ideas and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so I never really worked on my voice really until I went to Guildhall and did my postgrad and thought, because I was like, oh, jazz, right, oh, I need to do more jazz.
Yeah.
And felt so sort of honoured to get into that course because it's, you know, it's a tough one. And then I had Lee Gibson was my voice teacher, and I think that's probably the first time I did any technical stuff ever, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? So and then the course at Guildhall is like, you know, you're chucked in with all the instrumentalists, and that's tough, but I sort of thrived on it a bit. Yeah, so and that's kind of when I got sort of just really into improvising and really into that's my thing. You know, I really enjoy. This is, you know, and then had some lessons with Anita Wardell, who is just like amazing scat singer, and she kind of sort of helped me through. Even then though, not much technique, just more about improv scales, exercises for improvising and things like that. So, and then I think when I left Guildhall and I started gigging around more as a singer, I decided myself that I wanted to work on bridging. I'd never had a break in my voice, but just getting that kind of head voice, mixed voice, like I just didn't want to have that effort of that gap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I just worked on that myself, really, with exercises and, you know, singing difficult songs and like working on them. But I didn't really have a teacher at that point to help me through it. I just knew it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And anything like that, like we say to our students, is just doing it every day.
Yeah. And
then suddenly I started seeing results. I was like, yes, I've managed to, like, you know, because I was doing a lot of pop gigs and stuff, and I was like, I need more power. And so that was something I had to just sort of, get through myself. Yeah, so I'm not a technician at all, and unless it comes to improvising.
Yeah, that's your special
and then
sauce.
That's kind of my, you know, and then I learned and read a lot about, you know, the voice in my 20s, and then I sort of started teaching singing, and so a lot of it I've kind of learned on my own. And then, you know, your voice changes so much as you get older, and I had a big kind of, say, hiccup with my voice, but I had a breakdown when I was 29, so I had a period of not singing at all.
Okay.
Which was hard.
Yeah.
So I was just totally kind of out of life for about nearly a year. And then about a year after that, I ended up on life support for 9 days.
Oh my gosh.
Got the flu. And after that, my voice was destroyed.
Wow. Oh my God. Were you intubated? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and basically they put, it's like an inflatable thing.
Oh
And
God.
they inflate it to keep the tubes in place. So when I woke up, I was literally like it was
Yeah.
awful.
Nothing there.
And it took me, it must be a year and a half to get my voice back properly.
Wow. Oh my
It
gosh.
was so not in a good place.
That's terrifying.
So it was terrifying.
Yeah.
um, but again, just slowly working and strengthening. And like, I feel probably the best I would have about my voice now.
Amazing. That's awesome.
But yeah, a couple of real kind of hiccups, like late 20s and, you know, early 30s. And that was quite and just a bit of a reality that it's really fragile.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always been like, oh, my voice is so tough, you know, because I've never had any problems. Oh, it's so fine, you know. And then something like that, and you go, wow, it can just go in an instant, you know. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're back on full form now. So on your bio on your website, I noticed it said that you've released a couple of albums and you've got more projects coming up. And I know that you have your own choirs and lots of choir projects. So how did they come about?
Well, the albums was just me wanting to do something, really.
Yeah.
And just saving up the money and going, right, I'm going to do this, and with no kind of great artistic whatever, just I want to get something down. And then a few years later, I feel I've changed a lot, I want to do it again. And I would have loved to have made another album in the last few years, but I just have not had the money to do it.
I guess it's a big investment, isn't it?
If someone could wave a magic wand tomorrow, I'd be like, yes, I'm in the studio. Like, amazing. I've got the whole thing planned.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's tough, isn't it? You know, these things are not cheap.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed the process of those, like, definitely.
And was this your own material or covers?
All covers, so all kind of old jazz standards.
Love that.
Or like some British jazz things, or some things, you know, just trying to not pick the really obvious stuff.
Yeah. It's great to bring those classics in, you know, to a new audience as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not a writer, you know, I'm not a songwriter. It's not something I do. I'm an improviser, and you know, I'm an instant composer, not a, you know.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so it's different to your kind of someone that wants to sort of put their stuff out. But yeah, I just like a money tree at the moment. That'd be great.
Oh, wouldn't it? I know. Tell me about it. It's a tricky time, but the creatives, you know, that I know that we keep bashing on, don't we? We just carry on, and
I know that's sort of the sad thing.
Yeah.
Because like we've always had it tough. So somehow we will get through.
Yeah.
But I don't want to, because I want them to appreciate us. But somehow we will.
Yes.
I mean?
Yeah. We'll keep fighting that corner. So let's ask you another question then. So you've obviously talked about some vocal hurdles there you had with your health issues there. If you could go back and speak to your younger self, is there any advice you'd give yourself in terms of vocal care or anything to do with voice and how you look after yourself?
I mean, like, don't start smoking, definitely.
Okay. All right, but I mean,
but that's just a general life thing as well, isn't it? Like, you know, just don't do it.
Do you think it affects your voice?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's difficult if you've always smoked. Yeah. So I've got.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's stupid, isn't it? But
I'm not going to judge it. I'm not judgy like that. I think everyone's entitled to do their thing, and that's fine with me. I mean, it's one of those things that probably isn't the best for vocal health, but if you're still able to sing and you're still able to perform and you're out there entertaining people when we can, then who are we to judge? You know, you've got a great set of skills there.
Yeah, but I'm not I'm a bit of I abuse my body. You know, that's just how I am.
All right. All right, sister, I'm hearing you.
And I shouldn't be. But I'm not very good at that stuff. You know, I'm not going to drink herbal tea, and it's just not me.
Yeah.
You know, be in bed at 8 o'clock at night. I just can't do that. So so I'm going to bed later and later and later. And then you sort of have the magic early night. But then I can sleep for like 14 hours.
Oh, wow. That's so impressive.
And I'm like, what? And then, you know, the next day, and I'm like, why do I still feel rough?
Oh, yeah.
Sleep. And I don't seem to feel any different. if I've had 5 hours or 10, like I just
Yeah.
always to, I had therapy for several years, obviously after having a breakdown and sort of recovering from sort of having depression on and off since, my teens and
Yeah.
sort of trying to sort of find myself again, all those things that, and I would say to anyone, go and have the therapy. It
Yeah.
is like, I just feel like everyone should do it. I came out of it a better person, like knowing myself so much more.
Yeah.
But I remember saying to her, well, some nights I just can't sleep and I end up going to bed at 3 a.m. and then I have a nap and then, and she's like, who cares?
Yeah.
She said, does it matter? And I said, well, everyone sort of says, you have a nap or, you're going to bed late on, She said, if you're getting rest, who cares?
Yeah.
She said, don't let society judge you on your,
It's the
So
thing.
I am a bit like, I don't care anymore, whatever.
Yeah. Non-conformist. The best
if I don't
people.
sleep till 4 a.m. and then I don't get up till 1 p.m. Who cares?
Exactly.
I live on my own.
Yeah.
The dog doesn't mind. Who cares?
What have you got coming up with your choir? Is there any stuff coming? So you've kept Suffolk Soul Singers going, right?
Yeah. So, just to give a brief history of Soul Singers. So Soul Singers came about. I was working at Suffolk College as a singing teacher, and they're like, "Oh, could you do a singing group?" So I wrote some arrangements because I looked around and there was just really no decent pop arrangements out there. They all sounded too choral. They were all, I thought, no, I want it to sound like the record, It's got to be gospel harmony and, So I wrote a few arrangements and we did a concert with them. And then the next year they went, oh yeah, we haven't got any budget for that this year. And I was like, oh. And I thought, there must be people that want to do this. They don't want to sing in a classical choir, but they want to sing. They don't want to be gospel because it's linked to the church. So
yeah.
So I started with a friend of mine, Gemma Cunningham, who's also a singer, and we sort of rallied round and got as many people together as we could. And it started with everyone bringing their money and putting it in the Tupperware tub. That's how it sort of starts off. And then 11 years later,
wow,
we've sung Snape, Norwich. We've done loads of weddings. We've done some brilliant things. And also we're a registered charity and we've given away, I think, something like 13 grand to charity over the years.
Yeah.
And so it's really, it got a life of its own and it's sort of, carried on. But it's a lovely community of people. And I think this is, in lockdown, what became really important.
Definitely.
It became less about the singing and more about trying to keep everyone together, because for some people it's a very important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, started doing the Zoom sessions, and I kind of started off by note bashing and carrying on as normal, and everyone was there and everyone was cool, but then I was like, I need your feedback. Please tell me, what we can do differently, And they were finding the note bashing hard because you're on your own, aren't you?
Yeah.
So then we started singing along to our own recordings. So it felt like we were together.
Yeah.
Which has worked really well. I started learning some sign language. So then I'd teach them to sign a few songs, which made it more visual, which really helped. And it's quite fun,
Yeah.
When you can get everyone on Zoom signing around and
That's
you can see all the different that's quite good fun. And singing some of our favourites that we haven't sung, because obviously, over the years you get quite a big repertoire.
After 11 years,
each week a different person's going to pick a song that we're going to, and then having a little sort of sing along at the end, just a couple of sort of favourite pop tunes that people want to. So the sessions have changed a lot.
Yeah.
But just listening to them and what do you need, and so we're still doing our Zoom on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And since September, we're also doing an outdoor session on a Saturday.
Oh, amazing.
So when the weather's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, now we're going into the sort of the crappy weather season.
There's one week where we were literally in a bike shelter, like in a line.
Oh.
It started raining halfway through. And I'm, I've got this, busking battery and keyboard, and I'm like, oh my goodness, the gear. Like,
yeah.
So there's sort of a fair group that come along and do the outdoor session as well, because that is a chance to hear the harmonies and keep them and work on the new things that we've done in lockdown that they get to then hear, which has been really nice.
That's so lovely.
And my other choir, Cambridge Jazz Festival Choir, we carried on Zoom, and they sort of asked for something completely different, which was interesting. And they kind of said, well, we don't really know anything about the voice or singing, or, you know, so could you do a session on breathing? Or could you do a session on how the voice works? Could you do a session, you know? So I started sort of doing mini classes for them. And then I've been meeting outdoors with them since September again. But we've got a nice project coming up for the Cambridge Jazz Festival.
Okay.
Which hopefully you can help me plug.
Yeah, absolutely. When is it and what's happening?
So it's we're putting together a virtual choir for the Cambridge Jazz Festival.
Okay.
So we're doing a song by Pete Churchill, who taught me at Guildhall. And also I sing in the London Vocal Project. Yeah, so there's a workshop on the 21st of November at 3 p.m.
Right.
And it's free to join. You just have to register on Eventbrite. So I'm going to do a bit of a workshop on just kind of rhythm and moving and groove. And then we're going to learn one of Pete's songs called You Need Hope, which is perfect lockdown lyrics. And then hopefully everyone's going to send their recordings in. And we're going to have Cambridge Jazz Festival virtual choir. Yeah, it's quite a nice thing. And they sort of approached and said, oh, do you think you could do this? And I was like, yeah, but I can't do the mixing and the video. And they were like, no, we've got someone to do that. I was like, well, yes, then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do the singing bit, but I can't sync a video and, you know, that stuff. So, so that's coming up on the 21st of November. And then it's going to be premiered at the virtual jazz festival, which is, really nice.
When's that taking place, do you know?
So the festival itself is on the 29th.
29th, fantastic.
So there's lots of amazing music going on in the festival, obviously.
No, I tell you what, I've been so impressed with, you know, the British Voice Association and the MU and all the people that have taken things that were going to be in person and then put them online. So we've still been able to do it. And I think a lot of people have gone, actually, this is kind of better because I haven't had to travel. I haven't had to get a hotel room. I can just be in my pajamas. No one will care. It's a lot cheaper. Saves them
also,
hiring.
I don't know if you've noticed teaching wise, but another thing I've been doing is I did sort of a series of workshops in August.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have anything in August. Like August was a dead month. Everything had stopped. I was like,
yeah.
So I put this sort of series of workshops on like you think about what are your strengths, you know. So I did one on an introduction to vocal improv, and then like scat singing part 1, scat singing part 2, and then the most popular one, which was like gospel and blues improvising.
Yeah.
And sort of from that, a gang of people went, oh, could we do this every week? And I'm like, ooh. Yeah, great. So on a Tuesday, I do this sort of workshop session, which anyone is welcome to join. And 1 week, we've been sort of taking a jazz standard, looking at the harmony, singing guide tones, and I sort of send a track round, and then everyone can have a little practice, and then we sing to each other, and that as a small group seems to be the best thing that works on Zoom.
Yeah, that's really good. A
small group of people seems to work really well. So that's something I've been doing every week as well. And like I said, the blues gospel improv stuff really popular. Like lots of people like that one. But also the geeky scat singers can come and do that as well.
The geeky scat singers, well, yeah.
I've done a few streaming gigs online.
How's it gone?
Yeah, well, I was lucky, like in the first couple of months, to get offered a couple of paid things. And I was like, yes, I'll do those. I didn't want to do loads because I saw some of my friends doing it every week, and I was like, I don't know, because it feels like you're just doing it for nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So when I got a couple of paid opportunities, I was like, brilliant. And then I was doing like a sort of community sing-along thing on a Saturday night in lockdown as well, which was just silliness, you know, songs with kazoos, and then I'd have a guest who came and did a few songs, you know, like, you know, it was just to keep people together, you know, no one could do it on a Saturday night, and it became my Saturday, you know, and lots of friends came along and met lots of new people, and lovely. But yeah, the people sort of, you know, that were out there doing it every week, I thought, I don't just want to feel like I'm gigging for free. And I found doing it onto Facebook was hard because you're just sort of going out into the ether and you don't really sort of, so when I have done them, I've done them on Zoom. So I've had people along on Zoom and then from there put it onto Facebook.
I see, yeah.
Because you've got an audience. And
Yeah.
you see people's reactions and you see people clapping, you know, people can ask you questions, you know, so that felt a lot more interactive.
Definitely.
So from the first one that I did into Facebook where I felt like I'm just talking to no one.
Yeah.
To then deciding, no, it's much better when you've got, you know, a little audience around
you. Do need that. I think as an artist, you need to feed off of something, don't you? And I've whenever I've seen people putting out the Facebook Lives, which I've never attempted to do a Facebook Live, but for that reason, I think is that it doesn't feel interactive and it's just like singing to your phone or to your iPad or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know how I could make that feel authentic. You know, it just feels like you're having a weird paid or unpaid rehearsal.
The Zoom audience was like made me feel a lot more confident about doing it.
Yeah, that's a really good tip actually. Hopefully, if anyone's listening,
I've had one gig at the beginning of August at Snake Maltings. So I'm doing another one at Snake Maltings, 27th of November.
Okay.
We're at Snake with my little jazz trio with Jim Watson and Alex Hearn. And then I've got another one in December. So I'm like, two gigs in 2 months.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because I mean, it's just everyone lost so much, you know, when we locked down and you know all the work and you know
that was the sadness. Was the first couple of weeks where you were just getting email and text.
Yeah.
Going, this is cancelled, and it was like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That was tough.
It has been a really tough.
A little bit easier now because you know everyone's stuffed, so it's like it's okay. Like.
Well, yeah, they're all in the same boat. I mean, I think it's amazing that some of the theatres are opening again with social distancing, but they're running at a loss. So you just think, well, how long is that going to last? It's not really going to be viable to go long term in this way. You know, only having sort of 4 people on a row where you'd normally have 20 people or something. It's and
the government subsidy is just like poor.
Yeah,
and none of that trickles down to actual technicians. I was lucky. I had the self-employment scheme, although I must say, like, it's not great because it's always a percentage, isn't it? And then it's like, for me, it was a percentage of a percentage because I was also doing POA work at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's not amazing, but I was very grateful to have it, you know, having seen a lot of my friends that had nothing, you know, so
it's just
very difficult.
A very difficult year. So we've got to look forward to brighter times, hopefully, in the future. And I'm going to hit you with a really deep question.
Oh, no.
Don't worry. You can take your time with it. But this is a question I ask all my guests. I'd like to know what your voice means to you.
It's an instrument. It's a means of communication. And as I said, I started as an instrumentalist. And I guess, you know, as I said, I didn't have lots of technical voice training. I don't say I don't look after my voice, maybe, but to me, it is the same as a saxophone or a trumpet or a, you know, that's what it feels like to me. And
you play it like an instrument.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's how it is. That I could be playing saxophone, I could be singing. I mean, I still play sax, and like that's how it feels for me. And I guess that's why I don't know. I'm not quite this sort of singer.
Whatever that is. What's a singer?
Well, like, I don't know, like, but there's all this so much online about very specialist voice stuff, and you know, and I think, gosh, I just want to learn some changes in scat. Like, that's all I want to do.
It can be as simple as that, and I think as long as you're getting what you want from your voice and it does what you want it to do and what you need it to do, the rest of it is just extra stuff, and not everybody needs it.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's over in New York at the moment, Anthony Marsden, who you should have on here. He's brilliant. He's Irish. Then he studied in Birmingham, and then I met him in London singing with London Vocal Project, and we've kept in touch via lockdown because I'm always up really late and he's in New York, so we always end up chatting.
Right.
And he's just finished at the Manhattan School, and he's now teaching over there. And we were talking the other night about jazz, and he was like, he said, you know, when I practice, like, you know, I sort of do technique and blah, blah, but I never really practice, you know. I said, when I practice, like, I do a quick warm up, and then I'm straight into like learning a standard, or like, you know, apart from having to learn songs, like that's what I really love doing.
Yeah.
And I know that's an oddity. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, that is like what I want to sit down and do, you know?
Yeah.
So he was sort of, because he's very sort of holistic body, like that's his kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
But just a contrast of him sort of going, Rick, that's what you want to say in practice. And I'm like, no, that's what I want to say in practice.
That's all good. It's all good. So, whose voices inspire you, Andi? Who are the go-to? Who could you never tire of listening to when it comes to voice?
So I love Carmen McRae, Betty Carter. Just been listening to more Sarah Vaughan recently, actually.
Oh yeah.
And realizing how kind of hip she was. Like I was listening to a live thing on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, you know, she's very cool. Shirley Horn, massive lover of Shirley Horn, and her whole vibe. And
what would be the go-to song for those artists for you? Because then I can link them into our show
Shirley
notes.
Horn, Here's to Life. It's the title of an album, but that's my funeral song. I want that song on my funeral.
Wow. Here's to Life. What a great song title, though. Here's to Life. Love it.
Carmen McRae, I don't know. There's a brilliant live album of hers just called Jazz Standards.
Okay.
And it's so live. Like you can hear people eating their dinner. And,
oh, wow.
I love that about it. Like, and it's just standards. Her Joe Patton on guitar, she plays me like, everyone should hear that album.
Wow.
Betty Carter is tough. Like, I guess there's a song of hers called Tight that I really like. But she also did an album with Carmen McRae, which I absolutely love, those two together. Their version of Stolen Moments is amazing.
Oh, fantastic. And I mean, obviously you cross over. Do you bring these kind of songs to your soul singers, or are you doing that more with more sort of like
with soul singers, I try and I don't think they'd like it if I brought them a load of weird jazz stuff. So we do stick to like soul, gospel, blues. Right, we stick to that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And as an arranger, I love sort of taking a pop tune and like twisting it and making it into something else.
Yeah.
So I quite like kind of taking a pop tune and making it more gospel, or like
have you got
like some of the modern gospel stuff, like that kind of stuff as well, Kirk Franklin kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And also just like nice arrangements of like they give me a list each year of songs they want to do, you know, and most of them are usually rubbish. They know that. I always say that most of these are rubbish, but there's usually a couple of gems on there. So one that came from my Cambridge choir recently was Lovely Day, Bill Withers.
Oh.
And I really got into arranging that, and I really
but doing something different with it, because that's the thing, isn't it? And I get the impression you want to make it more interesting and add in some.
Yeah, well, I want people to hear soul singers and go, oh, I've never heard it like that before.
Yeah.
You know, because like, and for me as an arranger, like that's the nice thing about being able to do that, is that you can make it, you know, you can make it to suit the voices you've got and the abilities you've got. But also put your own twist on it so that it's not going to be like anyone else's, you know.
Love that, absolutely.
But they always moan and they go, oh, can't you always write it different, so we can't just listen to the record. And I was like, yes, it's a challenge. Come on.
That's the point. That's it. You've got to grow your skill set. Amazing.
And with the Cambridge Jazz Festival Choir, we do more jazz stuff. So we do more, like we do a few more standards with James Taylor and that kind of crossover sort of. So slightly different, although we still do the kind of like everyone wants things signed, sealed, delivered, or like everyone loves that stuff. So still do some of those classics between the two.
Stevie Wonder's just like the best.
Oh, absolutely amazing!
Amazing. His name is probably the one that's come up the most when I've said to people, you know, who could you never tire of listening to?
Yeah,
his name comes up the most.
Absolutely, yeah. Just as a writer, you listen to songs in the key. There is not a bad song on there. Everyone is absolute killer. You just think, gosh, what an amazing like talent! Like,
absolutely. Well, I've got one last question for you, Andi, which is, what is vocal freedom to you?
Well, I think you've said it. It's having the instrument that you feel you can use any way you want.
Yeah.
You know, so not having any restrictions of, you know, and you hear kind of amateur singers say, oh, I can't do that because it's on my break, or I can't do this, or oh, it's a bit high, or it's a bit, you know, having the freedom to be able to not having any technical barriers to you being able to use your voice however you want.
Yeah.
So whether you want to sing, you know, crazy Whitney Houston power ballad, or a kind of low sultry jazz ballad, or scat 10 choruses on Cherokee, or sing a real heavy rock song, or just to feel that you can do all those things and that there's nothing within your voice that is going, oh, I can't do that because of this thing about my voice. I can't do that because of,
Yeah, people do restrict themselves a lot, don't they? Sort of convince themselves and put these sort of limiting beliefs on themselves.
And I think and so much of it's psychological.
Agreed.
And just knowing you can do it. So I think part of the freedom is in your head and having the confidence. And with those two things, then yes, it's your vocal oyster.
Oh, that's a nice one.
You can sing whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's not, if you do want to learn to improvise, it's not too late. If you do want to sing with a rock band, it's not too late.
Yeah.
Your voice is like learning the guitar. It is the same.
Yeah.
There are technical things, I've had technical things and setbacks, and through practice you can come through them.
Definitely.
But I think, don't assume that your voice is always going to be there. Don't take it, but know that it's going to grow with you as well.
Definitely, yeah. That's really, really, really cool advice. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for joining me and being a fantastic guest and giving me lots of information about what you've got coming up. And hopefully lots of people are going to come and join in with you.
Yeah, the workshop. Yeah.
On the 21st of November.
Yeah, please let people know about that.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. People send their videos in off it, I think it's going to be a really nice thing. Bye.
Take care, lovely. Bye. Thank you for joining me on the Vocal Freedom Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the episode and will move into your day with a bit more vocal freedom, feeling that you can express using your voice and let the world hear what you have to say. Visit colchestervoiceacademy.com/podcast. Sign up to be kept informed as new episodes are published and consider joining our online community. Membership to this will allow you to post questions to our guests, link you to show notes, social media links, and entitle you to exclusive offers from our guests. See you next time.